Okay, and so we're beginning our a few more intensive lessons on PowerPoint. But before I really get into that overview, I just wanted to give you a quick look at some of my current ongoing work. And so this is something that I'm working on called the Climate Change Explorer. And so we'll just go into full screen mode here for a minute. And as you can see, this is essentially it's a prototype of an app that I'm developing, and it's going to work perfectly fine as a PowerPoint in and of itself. And so actually this is going to be distributed to schools around the world. We have schools in Madagascar as well as in America who are going to be having access to this application. And they can distribute it to their students as they see fit, whether it's through a touchscreen tablet or just on a computer or even online. This is all possible through PowerPoint. And so essentially, I mean, this, and again, bear in mind, this is very much a work in progress, as is everything I'm going to show you, but I just wanted to give you an idea of how powerful PowerPoint is. So we can go over to the tutorial and just see kind of how this works. And so as you can
Welcome
see,
to the Climate Change Explorer by
it's
Fauna
actually
Focus.
narrating to us. So
This interactive learning tool
this
aims
is
to
my
help
voice,
us all.
which is terrible. So we're not gonna listen to that. Eventually, I'll have a voice actor give the proper narration to go with that. So we're not going to go through the tutorial now because it's still very rough. But let's see what happens if we go to begin. So. And so this is actually a 3D model of the world that you can see here spinning. And PowerPoint has these built in. So you can actually embed 3D objects directly into PowerPoint for free. And so actually what we've done here is we've basically made a table of contents. So from here, we're going to have different sections. We're going to have what is global climate change, the impacts of climate change, exploring the data, meet the scientists, explore the solutions, and then finally test your knowledge, which will be like a little trivia quiz. And each one of these things that you click will essentially go full screen. Right, right. So as you can tell, this is very much a work in progress, and there's some bugs, and like this is probably just a placeholder. Essentially, what I was doing now is just working on the table of contents and figuring out what sections are going to go where. But basically, what you can do is design kind of a user interface that's kind of interactive. And so in this case, we've got this kind of dictionary of keywords, right? And so you'll click through this and it'll pop up with a little thing. This is all going to change to be a little bit more elegant. Right now it's just kind of roughly figuring out what needs to go where. We'll go home from here. And we can check, explore the data, meet the scientists. So each of these will bring you to a different section. I might do that fun little video intro for each section, as you saw before. Or I might not. I'm not sure. This is all still very much a work in progress. But yeah, so as you can see, this is the skeleton of a really cool app that we're going to have coming sometime in 2021. Right. So yeah, as you can see, this is not much has been done on this. Just a couple dozen slides here. So let me show you something that is got 600 slides. So this is our biodiversity app. Now, you'll notice that this is actually oriented vertically. And that's because the screen that we have it displayed on is oriented vertically. And so you can do that with PowerPoint. You can actually customize exactly the dimensions, either in centimeters or in pixels. And so we made sure that this was, in fact, 1920 by 1080 pixels, but rotated 90 degrees. So this is perfectly fitting a regular monitor, just flipped on its side. And as you guys know from our earlier lessons, you can rotate the monitor's display angle so that this actually fills up the entire vertical screen. The reason we did this is because eventually we would like to port this app over to a mobile application, if we can find a mobile app developer to basically help us make this a digital app that could be available on the iPhone and Android Play Store, which would allow people to access this app, on their smartphones, even if they go into the forest. So essentially, this is a digital field guide for Cambodian biodiversity. And it's also not done at all. There's still plenty more work to be done on it. but there is a lot of information in here. And so just to give you some idea, it says, touch a class icon to begin. So pick which animal class you're interested in, and you'll get a photo library from Fauna in Focus. And each of these is a clickable link that will open its own context menu. So here we've got the banteng, and as you'll see, we've got our kind of quick facts, our taxonomy. But then, importantly, you can actually scroll through this menu as well. Now, as you'll see, there's some things that we haven't finished here. So, for example, this is not a bird of prey. This is an ungulate, so that needs to be adjusted. But you get the idea, right? So it'll give you some information about the reproduction, the home range and the habitat. This is also the maps need to be updated. The threats, the conservation, and in some cases we can have a video that'll play. And when that plays, this whole top section here will just become a video and it will just start playing. For the ones that we don't have a video for, we just have this little photo gallery that you can scroll through at the bottom. Now in our nature center, this is actually displaying on a large 24-inch touchscreen. So people can actually use just their hands to interact with these icons on the screen, which makes it very intuitive for young kids and actually anybody. So people really like to interact with these apps like this. So if you go back, it'll just bring you back to the previous menu and you can explore additional animals. And so as you can see, there's a lot of information crammed into this one application, right? And it's still a work in progress. There's some rough things, like that's the wrong species of gibbon right there. We'll need to sort that out. But yeah, it's coming along, as you can see. And this is all just a prototype anyways. It's just a kind of concept how the user experience would work. All right, and then of course, you go over and you've got a whole other menu for insects. And again, each of these has its own menu as well. Obviously, the insects, there's a lot less known. So yeah, that is the golden birdwing. Oh, that's correct. So yeah, so this is another app that we're developing. This one has, I think, over 150 animals that we've roughed out so far. And we're basically just, day by day, we're just adjusting it and editing it and adding more to it and making sure everything is working properly. But it takes a lot of work to gather all that information and have it available in 2 languages. So as you can see, it is all done in PowerPoint. Every animal gets multiple slides that just transition nicely between each other. And by the end of this videos, you guys will know how to make something like this. And then I'll just show you from a more admin side. This is actually our master operations manual. And so you can click on this, and this essentially is how our team keep track of their day-to-day tasks and learn what to do. And so we have this kind of chapters menu over here on the left, and then within each chapter you're going to have these sub chapters. So this is over here on chapter 1, but we can go up to the help menu and we'll load the help menu here. And so this is kind of like, for people like wanting to know, oh, okay, so when we're ready, click the arrow below to go back and scroll through the chapter. So these are just the different buttons and symbols that people might see within this document. But you can scroll through each chapter, and each chapter has its own sections. And of course, these are also clickable links. So if we were to say, for example, meet the board, you click on that and it will bring you straight to our board of directors. So this is all designed to be an interactive application for our internal use, but is also a great resource that we can use to share with potential donors or partners or so on. So for example, if we wanted to know who are these people, well, we can click onto them and learn who are these people. So all of these are clickable, and we have actually a profile of all of our staff members. And so here's it broken up by the project, so we can see volunteers and former staff, and we have a credit for every single one of our friends and colleagues who've worked with us. So you might recognize some of these people from their time with Fauna in Focus Cambodia. So we'll head home, and it brings us back here. We can keep scrolling through the chapters. This is kind of fun. So you'll notice that these things that are grayed out, basically this just means I haven't put these together yet, so it's still a work in progress. But our work history timeline is quite interesting. This is something that I was quite proud of. This is actually an interactive timeline that shows Fauna in Focus's journey from 2015 to 2020. And so, for example, we can click on each one, and it will pop up with a little introduction that explains what was going on. And so you can read through this, you can get an idea of our history. And this is great when we have new staff and volunteers for them to kind of understand the history of Fauna in Focus. And importantly, where there is some sort of document attached to it, we have this option to download the document. And this will bring you out of PowerPoint and directly to Google Drive Online, where anybody can just download a shared document. And when you're done looking at something, you just close it, it goes away, and now we can see the promos and videos. So this was our early days when we were, fundraising for the film. And of course, these are actually YouTube videos, live, linked from YouTube. So you can click on it and it'll play directly from YouTube here. All within PowerPoint slideshow. So we can close that and that'll disappear. Sorry about that little glitch. I think that's just because I'm screen recording. And then, of course, this whole timeline slides. So you can slide this timeline to the right and we'll get new things coming in. So here we got our first big grant from Winrock USAID for film distribution. And you can, of course, go backwards as well. So you can kind of scroll back and forth on this timeline. And this is all just using PowerPoint, transitions, and so on. And yeah, so here's when we finally registered Fauna in Focus International in the States, and so on. So you can see lots of this. This goes on all the way up to 2020. So we'll go back home. And so, yeah, we've got a bunch of different chapters here on different things, and there's some really useful stuff in here. You can see we have our whole new staff onboarding process, everything broken by chapters and subchapters, all clickable, easy for people to jump around and navigate where they need to go. We have a whole IT and technical guide so that our own staff can become familiar with how to set up their Google Drive, how to set up their calendar, how to use the different platforms that we use. We have our own internal training videos that are linked through here. And then, of course, we also want our staff to be familiar with Cambodian biodiversity. So we even have a built-in kind of introduction to wildlife in Cambodia, explaining the history of the conservation efforts here, talking about some of the key wildlife and so on. We have our context and important names, and then we have our docs and appendices. So this will actually, allow us to see all of the important project documents, and again with downloadable links directly to them, all baked into a single, easy-to-use PowerPoint application that allows us to, kind of modernize our, operations manual. So we even have a whole section just on the design and the style, fonts, logos, that kind of thing. So if somebody's like, oh, what's that color font again that we need? It's no problem. It's easy to find. So we would just come down here to branding and style. And it's like, well, what do you want? You want the colors? Okay, well, let's check our colors. Oh, I think I didn't set up that link yet, but yeah. So this is a large document. It's 294 slides so far. But the thing is, once you start building them, that goes very fast. It's setting up the templates that take a long time. Once you start actually putting these presentations together, it goes much faster. So we've got tons of information in our slideshow here. Here's our future plans. This is kind of project proposal document for new projects and new work. So yeah, we got all sorts of interesting things linked in here. And again, all done through PowerPoint. So that's just the introduction to get you inspired. And in the next video, we're actually going to start talking about how to do some of these things.